So, going back to pick up aces and tanks I'd missed first time round, it was the turn of the Panzerjäger I. Yeah, Tier 2 German tank destroyer. And surprisingly enough, even though I played the Germans when I first started playing World of Tanks, I actually aced most of the German tanks, or most of the German TDs, during my original grind, but I didn't ace the Panzerjäger I, so I rebought it. I also got to still ace the Hetzer, didn't do that first time round as a new player. See that 112 games, 48% win record as a new player. So I would have played these tanks roughly probably the first maybe day, second day, maybe third day of playing World of Tanks, and really haven't played them since. But yeah, Panzerjäger I. The reason I'm showing you this before the game is I've got a 59% win record, but it took me 153 games. Now I think I played about 50 games in this originally, just trying to learn the game, and wasn't very successful. But it took me roughly about 100 games to ace this tank, and the reason it took me 100 games to ace this tank is because I was maybe playing it a little bit too aggressively, but also I was finding it absolutely impossible to pick up an ace. As you can see, played 153 games, 60% win record, or close enough to it, but I only managed to survive 38% of those games. So nice win record, but survival rate not very high in this tank, and that's, as I say, because I was chasing the ace. Hit ratio's not too bad, but what you can see here is my maximum experience was 1,359. 1,359, and that was not an ace. That was a first class. So I thought that this was going to be a curse tank. I played 100 games in it, couldn't ace it. The closest I got was a first class. I've managed to do 1,359 XP, and it wasn't an ace. I'd given up. I'd really given up hope of actually acing this tank, and was only basically giving it its daily double, and I had given up on this tank at all. But then we got into this game. So welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Panzerjäger I. Hi folks, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Panzerjäger I, the Tier 2 German tank destroyer, and a tank I rebought to ace some time ago, because this is a tank I played on day one of playing World of Tanks. When I first started playing World of Tanks, I played the Germans first, and I got up to pretty much Tier 4 or Tier 5 on most lines on day 1 or day 2. So this is a tank I had not played since the very first day of playing World of Tanks, or discovering the game. Now, Panzerjäger I is German. Panzerjäger means tank hunter. So the Panzerjäger I was the first German tank destroyer of World War II. It was designed by Alket in 1939 on the chassis of a Panzer I, or the Panzer I Ace B to be more exact. Basically because by 1939 even the Panzer I was considered obsolete for that time, so they decided to extend the life cycle. So what they did was they removed the turret and they replaced it with this gun shield and a 47mm pack, which was a Skoda. It was a Czechoslovakian gun built by Skoda. So this was a TD that was designed for the Blitzkrieg, or for the invasion of France. The gun was considered good enough to be able to take on the French, heavily armoured for that time, the French Char B1 tank. So it was designed for the invasion of France, but only a small number ended up being used during the Blitzkrieg, as most of the tanks that were built and most of the crews that were supposed to be on those tanks were still in training by the time Germany invaded France, so only a small number were involved. They did see more action, or most action I should say, in North Africa, and it was also deployed on the Eastern Front against the Soviet Union. 202 of them were built in total between 1940 and 1941, with Alket designing and building the first 142, and the remaining 60 were built by a company called Klockner, Humboldt, Deutz. So in reality, I guess the TD had some problems. It was the first TD after all. The gun and the gun shield basically added a lot of weight to the front of the tank, and that caused suspension issues, so it had a little bit of a reliability problem. Also, the gun shield was very, very thin. It was only 13 millimeters thick, as it is in game, and that meant that basically it could be penetrated by most of what was going to be shooting at it. Also, shrapnel from nearby shells landing could also penetrate the gun shield, so the crews weren't too impressed. The other problem the crews had with the gun shield was the fact that you couldn't actually aim and spot enemy tanks without exposing your head above the top of the gun shield. So it made the crew very, very vulnerable to headshots, and also the fact that there's no protection at the rear of the tank meant that the tank destroyer basically had problems operating in urban environments. So you know, enemy's troops could get behind and basically cause the crew problems from behind. So the crews weren't a big fan of this particular tank destroyer, but it was the first TD during World War II for the Germans. The gun itself, by the time it saw more extensive combat in North Africa and against the Soviet Union on the Eastern Front, the gun was considered underpowered. I mean, when it was first introduced, the gun was accurate up to a range of 1,000 meters. The problem was it could only pen British tanks like the Matilda II at a distance of 400 meters. So it could hit them at 1,000 meters, but it could only pen them at 400 meters. And that's if they were using special tungsten core ammo. So it needed special ammo to be able to pen Matildas in North Africa, and it could only pen them at 400 meters. It could damage them and maybe cause the Matilda crews to abandon their tanks at 600 meters due to spall damage, you know, the shell hitting the tank and causing spall damage inside. But essentially it was undergunned and not a very popular tank. As I say, 202 of them were built between 1940 and 1941. There were two versions of this particular Panzerjäger I built. The first bunch that were built, about 140 of them, came with a very, very basic 5-sided gun shield. So this one here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this has 7 different angles on it, and that means it's the second version of gun shield, but the first one only had 5. So anyway, that's pretty much it for the history. Now we might as well get on with this game, because this was just another one of these games where I had absolutely no hope of acing this tank, because I'd had some very, very good games on this tank, and it was turning into the like tractor. I just could not ace this flaming thing. Got very decent XP, but yeah, just could never get anything better than first class. So we're here on mines, which is a blessing, because basically mines allows me to use my camo, and my shooting is bloody terrible. As I say, you're going to notice terrible shooting. I don't know what it is. My internet is just dodgy as heck at the moment, and I know it sounds like an excuse, but I'm going to give you a few more examples. I mean, there are lots of ghost shells, and sometimes I click and fire and there's a slight delay before my shell comes out of the gun. So I don't know. I really don't know what the issues are. Just I've got potato internet at the moment. But anyway, we're set up here on the corner. There's RT in play, and I have to adjust the tank because it's got a very, very narrow gun arc, and that probably got me spotted. Yes, it got me spotted. So yeah, I've got a decent crew in this. I finally put a decent crew in this tank because I was sick. I was sick of playing this tank with a 100% crew but no 6th sense. So I had a spare crew that are ready to go into the Waffenträger Panzer IV. Or not the Waffenträger Panzer IV, the Waffenträger Tier 9 Waffenträger, when I get around to buying that tank. But the crew were just sitting around doing nothing, so I basically put them in this so I'd have a finally be able to play this with a good crew. And I'm worried about RT. As you can see, RT's trying to hit me. I've only got 13 millimeters of armor, so absolutely anything could take you out. But yeah, this is just, it was turning into a very, very basic game here. So we've gotten 2 kills in quick succession. There are tanks coming around the corner, so we track the T2 medium. He puts a shot into me, and I know RT's probably aiming at me, but someone else takes out the IKV, so we get some nice assistance damage. But yeah, reverse speed. In-game, reverse speed is terrible. Also, it's quite fast in a straight line. The traverse speed is okay. The accuracy and rate of fire are good. The alpha damage is good. The view range is very, very good, I have to say. 300 meters view range on a Tier 2 is exceptional. But the problem I have with this tank is just the lack of armor. It is so easy to destroy. You can't use your gun depression because the gun shield extends above the gun by quite a considerable distance. But we're going to go down here, try and take out the Panzer 35T, which is a tank that actually uses the same gun. The gun on the Panzer 35T is actually the same 47mm that comes on this tank. They were both built by Skoda. But anyway, getting off topic. So yeah, this is just an average game. I was figuring that maybe if we do a little bit more damage, we might get a third class or a second class out of this game, and then I'll relegate it back to waiting for the following day or the next time I play World of Tanks and try and get the daily double in it, and maybe cross my fingers and try and ace it. But I need more kills, and I need a heck of a lot more damage. And that was a nice shot. Oh. Yeah, bounce for 0 damage on the 76M, but you can see the alpha damage is quite nice. It means you can 2-hit kill a lot of tanks here. Forgot to mention, it's a tier 2 game, all tier 2 game with 5 tier 3s, so a lot of the tanks I'm shooting are higher tier, which helps. But we're just moving up, and as I say, 300 meters view range is very, very nice. We're going to move up. Binox and camo net, of course, because it's a TD. So the camo rating is okay. It's relatively fast in a straight line. It does 40 kilometers an hour. It can reach 40 kilometers an hour, but you're going to see that going downhill, get up to 40. Oh, swing around. But yeah, the gun arc, shooting the gun before being fully aimed, and the gun arc mean you've got to move the hull of the tank before shooting. But going to work here, and once again, all the enemy are dying. Everyone is dying before I could shoot them. I've only picked up 3 kills. I've only done 500 damage, and yeah, this is just another game where I thought, nah, okay, I guess I'll try and ace it tomorrow. Let's get back and play some other tanks. But we're advancing, and the Igo Chiro is around this corner, and I can't see him, and I'm wondering what's going on here. Why can't I see this guy? Is he in the rock? Where is this guy? Is he in the rock? No. Oh, he's managed to wedge his tank in. So yeah, shooting before being fully aimed, miss. Aim more carefully, get a little bit more damage, and final enemy tank goes down. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So as I say, I've done over 1,000 damage more than once in this tank and wasn't an ace, and then this popped up, and I thought that was a very, very basic, straightforward game, and the ace popped up. So yeah, it's amazing what a break from World of Tanks does for your luck. So the Panzerjäger I has been aced, it's been sold, we've moved on to, I think the next tank I've moved on to is the Jagdpanzer IV, which is the only lower tier or mid tier TD I haven't aced yet, other than the Hetzer, because I know when I finally get around to the Hetzer is going to be a keeper. I'm going to end up keeping the Hetzer. So yeah, Panzerjäger, or the Jagdpanzer IV is the next one I'm going to try and ace for the Germans. But yeah, 683 XP was enough to ace it on this particular day I was playing. I have no idea why, because, as I say, getting over 1,000 XP in this tank wasn't enough to ace it, and then we managed to do it in this game with, you know, almost half the XP. So, you know, I've done 900 and something damage, and this got it in 600 damage, and I've gotten 7 kills in this tank with a lot of damage and XP in addition, and 3 kills was enough to do it. So yeah, I really can't explain it. Sometimes aces are weird. You know, no one who plays this tank regularly, obviously they were playing it that week, they took a break from playing it that week, so we ended up acing it. Not an amazing game, very straightforward, but it's done, it's dusted, it's sold, and we've moved on. So you know, 18 shots fired, I only managed to hit 12 because I'm shooting like a moron at the moment. You know, damage seemed to be pretty standard. Only spotted one tank, even though my view range is 300 meters. Damaged 8, destroyed 3, 304 assistance damage, and we earned 14,000 credits, but it's only a tier 2, so what do you want? So there you go. Oh yeah, first game of the day. As I say, I'd given up trying to ace it. I was just giving it its daily double and crossing my fingers, and finally crossing my fingers worked, and we managed to ace it on a very, very average game. But anyway, Panzerjäger I, the first TD for the Germans during World War II. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.